On the morning Ada was buried, three people swore they saw her standing by the river, watching her own funeral, and what she said to them was not a cry for help. It was a warning. In that village, the river had a name no one spoke loudly. It was called the Listener, not because it roared, not because it swallowed people whole, but because it heard things that were never meant to be heard. The elders used to say, "Be careful what you whisper near water. It carries words deeper than the earth." For years, no one disappeared. No one drowned. No one tested it. Until the day Ada walked toward it at sunset. Ada was not loud. She was not proud. She was the kind of girl who woke before sunrise, swept the compound, fetched water for neighbors, and still found time to sew torn clothes for children who could not pay her. When she laughed, people turned. When she sang, even goats stopped chewing. She was light, and light attracts both love and shadows. Ada's stepmother never struck her, never shouted loudly in public. But envy does not always need noise. Sometimes it sits quietly behind the eyes. Sometimes it smiles with closed lips. Sometimes it says, "She thinks she is better than everyone." The villagers praised Ada often. Such a good girl, so respectful, so blessed. Each praise was a small stone, and in her stepmother's heart those stones began to gather, heavy, unspoken, growing. One evening, after the villagers left praising Ada again, the stepmother muttered under her breath, "I wish this girl would just disappear. Then we will see who they clap for." She did not shout it. She did not mean for anyone to hear it. But the window was open and the river was listening. That same evening, Ada walked toward the river, not running, not crying, just walking. She carried no bucket, no wrapper for washing, just her thoughts. The sky was painted orange. The water was calm, too calm. She stood near the edge, and then she did not return home. They searched through the night, men with lanterns, women crying loudly, her stepmother crying the loudest. By morning, her body was found downstream, still, silent, eyes closed. The village wailed. She was too good. She was too young. Even her stepmother tore her wrapper and fell to the ground. But the river does not answer noise, it answers truth. They buried Ada before noon. The sun was high, the earth was dry, and as the final sand fell on her grave, a fisherman near the river dropped his net because he saw her, standing ankle deep in water, watching the burial from a distance, dry, unmoving. They slapped him for speaking madness. But before the day ended, a little girl fetching water came running back to the village. Ada smiled at me, she said. She told me not to be afraid. The villagers began to murmur, "Fear travels faster than wind." That night, an old woman who lived closest to the river heard footsteps outside her hut. She stepped out, and there was Ada, not glowing, not floating, just standing there. The old woman's voice trembled. "Child, are you lost?" Ada looked at her and said, "They buried what was wished for, not what was born." Then she turned and walked back towards the river. The old woman did not sleep that night because she understood something the others did not. The river does not take bodies, it takes intentions. Inside Ada's house, your stepmother could not rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw water, not drowning her, just staring back at her, reflecting her face, reflecting her whisper, "I wish she would disappear." Wishes spoken in envy are heavier than stones, and the river carries heavy things. On the third night after the burial, there was a soft knock on the door. The stepmother rose slowly, her hands shaking. She opened it, and Ada stood there, wet but not dripping, calm but not cold. Her voice was steady. You asked for space. The river gave it to you. The stepmother fell to her knees. I didn't mean it. Ada tilted her head slightly. The river does not measure volume, it measures truth. I was tired of them praising you, the stepmother whispered. I was tired of feeling small. Ada's eyes softened. I never tried to make you small, but your heart made me large. Silence filled the room. Not angry silence, heavy silence, the kind that forces reflection. The body they buried, Ada continued softly, was the shape of your wish. It looked like me, but it carried your jealousy. The river gave your envy a form, so you could see it. Tears rolled down the stepmother's face. I want you back. Ada looked toward the river. I was never gone. She stepped backward and disappeared into the mist. At sunrise, the grave was found open, empty, nobody, no disturbance, just smooth earth. The elders stood in silence. The village did not scream, they did not panic, because they finally understood. Ada returned that afternoon, walking from the river, alive, breathing, changed. She hugged her father, she touched her siblings' heads, and when she faced her stepmother, there was no anger in her eyes, only clarity. From that day forward, the river was no longer